The stars flickered as the human fleet moved through space, their metal hulls reflecting the distant light of unfamiliar suns. Admiral Tom Wilson stood on the bridge of the Earth's flagship Defender *, his eyes fixed on the main screen. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally pushed beyond their solar system. They weren't alone out here, and today proved it in the worst possible way. "Multiple contacts," shouted the radar operator. "Big ones, sir. Nothing like we've ever seen before." The ships that appeared were massive, 3 times the size of Earth's largest vessels. They glowed with a strange purple energy that seemed to bend space around them. The Dominion had arrived, and they weren't here to talk. "All ships, battle formations," Wilson ordered, his voice steady despite the fear in his gut. "Let's show them humanity knows how to defend itself." The first battle was brutal and quick. Earth ships, despite being smaller, proved surprisingly hard to hit. Human pilots flew with a creativity that confused the alien targeting systems. But the Dominion's weapons were simply too powerful. For every alien ship they damaged, they lost 2 of their own. Captain James Reed commanded the Swift Strike *, a fast attack vessel on the fleet's right wing. His ship darted between enemy fire, landing hit after hit on a Dominion cruiser. "Keep it up," he encouraged his crew. "Their shields are weakening." But then everything went wrong. A hidden Dominion ship appeared behind them, its weapons already firing. The Swift Strike's engines died, and they started drifting. "All hands, brace for boarding," Reed shouted. He knew the protocols. If boarding was inevitable, destroy all sensitive data. But before his crew could finish, strange purple gas filled the ship. The last thing Reed saw was his crew falling unconscious around him. He woke up in a cell. The walls were made of some strange, shifting metal that seemed alive. Through a transparent barrier, he could see other humans, crew members from different ships. Their captors stood guard outside. The Dominion soldiers were tall, their bodies covered in what looked like living armor. They moved with an unnatural grace that made them seem more machine than living being. One of them noticed Reed was awake. "The human leader awakens," it said in perfect English, its voice coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You fought well, unexpectedly well, for such a young species." Reed stayed silent, remembering his training. Name, rank, and number. Nothing more. "Your silence is pointless," the guard continued. "We already know everything about your fleet. What interests us is how such primitive creatures could damage our ships at all." In the following days, more human prisoners arrived. Reed tried to keep track of them all, organizing them as best he could. There were at least 200 by his count, all kept in similar cells. The Dominion seemed fascinated by their captives. They watched them constantly, studying how they organized themselves, how they communicated, how they maintained hope. To them, humans were an interesting experiment, a primitive species that had somehow developed spaceflight and combat capabilities that could actually hurt their ships. "They're underestimating us," Reed whispered to his fellow prisoners. "They think we're just animals who got lucky with technology. Let them think that." The Dominion leaders held meetings, visible through the transparent walls of their command center. They spoke in their own language, but their gestures were clear enough. They were deciding what to do with their prisoners. Whatever they're planning, Reed told the others, "Remember, humanity doesn't break easily. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own near destruction. We'll survive this too." But as he watched the Dominion leaders finish their meeting with what looked like satisfaction, Reed felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't know it yet, but their captors had just made a decision that would change the course of the war and seal their own fate. The Dominion had decided to make an example of their prisoners. They thought it would break humanity's will to fight. It would prove to be the biggest mistake in their empire's long history. The Dominion's main broadcast center hummed with activity. Their leaders had gathered to send a message to both their empire and the humans. In the holding cells, Captain Reed, and the other prisoners were being moved. None of them knew they were about to become part of the biggest mistake in galactic history. "On your feet, humans," the guards ordered, their living armor shifting colors as they moved. They selected 100 prisoners, including Reed, and marched them to a large open area. The room was circular, with floating cameras everywhere. Thousands of Dominion citizens watched through direct feeds, their minds connected to the broadcast network. In the center stood the High Commander, his armor gleaming with symbols of rank and power. Today, the High Commander's voice boomed in perfect English. "We show the galaxy what happens to those who resist the Dominion. Let all species witness the price of defiance." Reed looked at his fellow prisoners. They stood tall, shoulders straight, faces calm. Years of human military training showed in their stance. They knew what was coming, but they wouldn't give their captors the satisfaction of seeing fear. "Your species had potential," the High Commander continued. "You could have joined us peacefully. Instead, you chose war. Now, you will serve as an example." The broadcast reached every corner of Dominion space. On thousands of worlds, alien species watched. Many had seen such displays before. The Dominion would execute some prisoners, and the fighting spirit of the new species would break. It had happened dozens of times before, but this time was different. The signal also reached Earth. In the military command center, General William Porter watched with his staff. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his hands gripped his chair until his knuckles turned white. Back in the broadcast center, Reed started singing. It was an old military song, one that had survived centuries of human warfare. Other prisoners joined in, their voices growing stronger. The Dominion guards tried to silence them, but more voices joined until all 100 prisoners were singing. "Enough," the High Commander roared. "Begin the execution." The Dominion used their most advanced weapons, expecting quick submission. Instead, the prisoners kept singing until the very end. Their last act of defiance was broadcast across the stars. The High Commander spoke again. "Let this be a message to Earth. Surrender now, or more will follow." On Earth, General Porter finally moved. He pressed a button on his desk. "Send the response." The response was simple, a single line of text transmitted across space in every language the humans knew. No more prisoners, no more mercy. In the following hours, the Dominion noticed something strange. Human ships stopped trying to escape when damaged. Instead, they rammed into Dominion vessels, causing massive damage. Human soldiers fought to the death rather than surrender. Each human ship now carried a small nuclear device, ready to detonate if boarding was attempted. The Dominion's intelligence division reported something alarming. Human communications had changed. Their transmissions now ended with "Remember the 100." Military channels buzzed with a new protocol. 0. "What is Protocol 0? The High Commander demanded. His advisors studied intercepted messages. The answer chilled them. Protocol 0 meant human forces would no longer take prisoners. They would no longer accept surrender from Dominion forces. The war had entered a new phase. In their arrogance, the Dominion had awakened something they didn't understand. They thought they were dealing with just another species that would break under pressure. Instead, they had ignited a fire that would burn their empire to the ground. The execution broadcast had lasted less than an hour, but in that short time, the Dominion had sealed their fate. They didn't know human history. They didn't understand that humans became most dangerous when pushed to the edge. As the news spread through human space, ships began painting their hulls black. Ground forces added black armbands to their uniforms. The time for normal warfare was over. The Dominion had wanted to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had unleashed something far worse: humanity's capacity for total war. 3 weeks after the executions, the Dominion fleet found something strange. Their forward base on planet X-17 had gone silent. When ships arrived to investigate, they found only empty buildings. All their guards were gone, their security systems disabled from within. On the main wall, Someone had painted in red, "Remember the 100." In Earth's underground military command center, General Porter studied the holographic map. Red dots showed Dominion positions. Green dots showed human ships. But now there were also black dots, special forces operating under Protocol Zero. Team Alpha reporting. A voice crackled through the comm. Dominion base neutralize. No survivors. Moving to next target. Porter nodded. The new tactics were working. Humanity had switched to something the aliens had never seen before: pure guerrilla warfare in space. Send in the ghost ships, Porter ordered. The ghost ships were Earth's newest weapons. They looked like broken vessels drifting in space, but inside they carried elite strike teams. The Dominion's habit of salvaging damaged ships became their weakness. Every time they tried to capture a ghost ship, they found themselves fighting human soldiers who had no interest in surviving, only in causing maximum damage. "Sir," a young officer reported, "the Dominion is pulling back from 3 sectors. They're grouping their ships together for protection." Porter smiled grimly. "Perfect. That makes them easier to find." The humans had learned from their early mistakes. Big ships and direct battles didn't work against the Dominion's superior technology. But small, fast attacks, hit-and-run tactics, these were things humans had perfected over thousands of years of warfare on Earth. On the Dominion command ship, the High Commander received disturbing reports. His soldiers were nervous. Some refused to board damaged human vessels. Others jumped at shadows. The humans never appeared where expected, never fought the way military doctrine said they should. "How do they keep getting past our sensors?" he demanded. The answer was simple but brilliant. Humans were using old technology, so old it was practically invisible to advanced Dominion scanners. While the aliens looked for energy signatures and shield frequencies, humans were strapping rockets to asteroids and using basic radio signals that looked like background noise. In one sector, a Dominion patrol found their fuel depot replaced with floating debris. In another, a major communications relay simply vanished. Supply lines were cut by invisible attackers. Bases went dark one by one. But the worst part was the psychological effect. The Dominion forces never knew where humans would strike next. They started seeing threats everywhere. Every broken ship could be a trap. Every quiet sector could hide an ambush. "Sir," an officer reported to Porter, "the Dominion is requesting a meeting. They want to discuss terms." "No," Porter replied quietly. "Remember the 100. No negotiations." The change in humanity's way of fighting shocked their allies and enemies alike. Gone were the ordered fleets and honorable battles. Now, human ships painted themselves black to blend with space. They studied Dominion patterns and struck at weak points. They practiced something their ancestors called scorched earth, leaving nothing useful behind when they retreated. In their ships, human soldiers kept pictures of the 100. Every victory was dedicated to them. Every fallen Dominion base was marked with their memory. The Dominion had expected humans to become cautious after losing their people. Instead, humans had become ruthless. They expected fear to make humans predictable. Instead, it made them more creative. New reports coming in, an analyst told Porter. 3 more Dominion bases gone dark. Their ships are starting to avoid entire sectors of space. Porter looked at the map again. The red dots were clustering together, abandoning their forward positions. The Dominion was starting to fear the dark spaces between their strongholds. They were right to be afraid. In those dark spaces, humanity was rewriting the rules of space warfare, one silent victory at a time. The Dominion had taught humanity a lesson, but not the one they intended. They taught humans that the only way to win this war was to become something scarier than their worst nightmare. In the grand halls of the Dominion Intelligence Center, Chief Analyst First Class stood frozen in front of his data screen. His hands trembled as he read the reports about human history. After 3 months of devastating losses to human guerrilla tactics, the Dominion had finally decided to study their enemy's past. "High Commander," He called through the communication link. "You need to see this immediately." The High Commander arrived within minutes, his living armor darker than usual, showing his stressed state. "What have you found?" "Their history, sir. We made a terrible mistake." The screens lit up with images from Earth's past. Thousands of battles, hundreds of wars. The Dominion leaders watched in growing horror as they saw humans fighting humans across the centuries. Each war seemed to make them stronger, smarter, more adaptable. "This species," the analyst explained, "has been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. But look at this pattern. Every time they face extinction, they don't just survive. They come back stronger." The High Commander's armor shifted to a pale gray, a sign of deep concern. "Show me examples." More images appeared. Humans fighting with sticks and stones, then bronze, then steel. Humans surviving ice ages by learning to use fire and build shelters. Humans nearly wiping themselves out with nuclear weapons, then building a global civilization from the ashes. "Sir, their deadliest wars were against themselves," the analyst continued. "They've had more practice at warfare than any species we've ever encountered. And this is what truly concerns me." He pulled up data from their first battles with Earth's forces. "Look at their tactics before we executed the prisoners. Organized, traditional, predictable. Now look at their tactics after." The new images showed the devastating effectiveness of human guerrilla warfare in space. The Dominion had lost more ships in the last 3 months than in the previous 50 years combined. "They're using tactics from their own history," another analyst added. "This one is from something they call the Revolutionary War, small forces defeating a superior enemy. And this one follows the pattern of their World War II resistance fighters. They're not inventing new tactics. They're using what they know works." The High Commander's armor turned almost white as he understood the full implications. "We didn't break them. We reminded them of who they really are." More historical data poured in. Humans had survived diseases that killed most of their population. They had rebuilt cities destroyed by natural disasters. Their fiction was full of stories about fighting against impossible odds and winning. "There's more, sir," the first analyst said quietly. "We found their entertainment records. Even when they're at peace, they spend their time imagining new ways to fight wars. They call it gaming and military science fiction. They've been practicing for this their entire existence." The High Commander turned to his war council. "How many ships have we lost since executing the prisoners?" 342, sir, and 15 major bases. We haven't captured a single human alive since they implemented their Protocol Zero." In another part of the intelligence center, junior analysts made more disturbing discoveries. Humans had special forces teams that trained to fight in every possible environment. They had soldiers who could survive in deserts, jungles, Arctic conditions, even underwater. "Sir," a military advisor spoke up, "we've detected increased activity near our outer colonies. The humans, they're teaching our other subject species their tactics." This was the worst news possible. The Dominion had spent centuries building their empire through superior technology and strict control. But humans were showing others how to fight back using simple tools and clever strategies. The High Commander looked at the historical records again. Humans called themselves many things: warriors, soldiers, fighters. But one word kept appearing in their history: survivors. "We didn't just make an enemy," he said finally. "We created exactly the kind of enemy we were most vulnerable to. One that can't be intimidated, doesn't follow normal rules of war, and actually gets more dangerous when threatened." The room fell silent as they all realized the same thing. The Dominion hadn't just started a war. They had awakened a species that had spent its entire existence preparing for this exact type of conflict. And they were about to learn just how high the price for that mistake would be. 6 months after the execution of the 100, a Dominion supply fleet disappeared near their core worlds. When rescue ships arrived, they found something impossible: their own technology being used against them. Human soldiers had not only captured Dominion ships, they had learned to fly them better than their original crews. How did they master our bioneural controls so quickly? The High Commander demanded, his armor flickering between colors of rage and fear. The answer came from a security recording. Humans had discovered that Dominion technology responded to electrical signals from any living brain. While the Dominion spent years training with elegant neural interfaces, humans simply rewired the systems to work with simple on-off switches. In Earth's new mobile command center, a captured and modified Dominion cruiser, General Porter watched his forces adapt and evolve. The black-painted human ships now flew alongside repurposed alien vessels. They had taken the Dominion's greatest strength and turned it into a weapon. Team Delta reporting. A voice called. "We found something interesting in the captured research base. Sending data now." Porter looked at the incoming information and smiled for the first time in months. The Dominion's own research showed a fatal flaw in their living armor. It couldn't handle extreme temperature changes. Humans immediately developed new weapons, not high-tech energy beams, but simple things that alternated between heat and cold. "Bring up the star map," Porter ordered. The holographic display showed something remarkable. Red dots of Dominion control were shrinking. Green dots of human forces moved like smoke between them. But now, there were yellow dots too, other alien species rising up against their Dominion masters. "The gray skins on planet X-45 want to know if we'll teach them our tactics," an officer reported. "Send them everything," Porter replied. "The more species that fight back, the better." On a Dominion colony world, a group of enslaved aliens watched in wonder as human ships took down a major military base. The humans didn't use fancy weapons or complex strategies. They used old mining explosives, converted cargo ships, and pure courage. "If they can fight back," one slave whispered to another, "so can we." The message spread. Species that had lived under Dominion control for centuries began to resist. They learned human tactics: hit and run, ambush, sabotage. The Dominion's empire started cracking from within. In a secure facility on Earth, scientists combined human ingenuity with captured Dominion tech. They discovered that the aliens' advanced AI couldn't handle human randomness. While Dominion computers tried to find patterns, humans deliberately created chaos. "Sir," an aide reported to Porter, "the families of the 100 have completed their training." This was something the Dominion never expected. Instead of breaking down, the families of the executed prisoners had formed an elite unit. They called themselves the 100's Legacy, and they were about to show the galaxy what motivated humans could do. The Legacy's first mission targeted a major Dominion fleet base. They used captured ships, modified with human controls. The Dominion defenders never saw them coming. When it was over, the base was gone, and a new message was painted on the debris: "The 100 are not forgotten." Back in the Dominion Intelligence Center, analysts watched their empire crumble. Every tactic they tried failed. If they gathered their ships for protection, humans would isolate and starve them out. If they spread their forces thin, humans would destroy them one by one. Another uprising reported. An officer announced, "The Stonebreakers of System 227 have taken control of their mining fleet." The High Commander's armor had turned a permanent gray. His mighty empire, built on advanced technology and strict control, was being torn apart by primitive weapons and chaos. Humanity had done more than survive. They had shown the galaxy that even the most advanced empire could fall to determined resistance. The Dominion had spent centuries building their perfect system. Humans needed only months to show its weaknesses. And this was just the beginning. The real war was about to start. 1 year after the execution of the 100, the Dominion's worst nightmare came true. Their empire didn't just face human forces anymore. Every enslaved species had learned to fight back. The humans had done something unthinkable. They had shared their knowledge freely with everyone. On the bridge of his captured flagship, now named *Justice*, General Porter watched as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The stone people of the mining worlds had turned their drilling machines into weapons. The winged folk of the gas giants now used their atmospheric ships to ambush Dominion patrols. Even the peaceful crystal beings had joined the fight, using their natural abilities to disrupt Dominion communications. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "we're getting signals from every sector. They're all using the same code phrase. Remember the 100. The human battle cry had become a universal symbol of resistance. Species that had been enemies for centuries now fought side by side, using human tactics. The Dominion's greatest strength, its tight control, had become its greatest weakness. In the Dominion's capital system, the High Commander faced his first mutiny. His own troops had seen too many defeats, lost too many ships to the humans' guerrilla tactics. Some began to question whether the Dominion's way was really superior. 3 more battle groups have gone silent, an officer reported, his armor shifting nervously. "We think they've joined the rebels." The High Commander's worst fears were coming true. Humans hadn't just taught others how to fight. They had shown them how to win. Every species now knew that even the smallest fighter had a chance against the biggest warship. Back on the Justice Porter received an unexpected message. The last surviving member of the Hundred's families, an old war veteran named Jack Thompson, had successfully led a mass prison break on a Dominion world. 10,000 slaves freed. Thompson's message read, "They're all asking for weapons and training. The 100's sacrifice won't be forgotten. Not by humans, not by anyone." The Dominion tried desperately to maintain control. They sent their most advanced ships to crush the rebellions. But they had forgotten something important about humans. They learned from every defeat, adapted after every loss. "Look at this," Porter said, pointing to the tactical display. "They're still using their standard attack patterns. They never learned to be unpredictable." The rebel forces, trained by humans, struck from all directions. They didn't fight like a proper army. They fought like resistance fighters, rebels, and guerrilla warriors. The Dominion's mighty fleets found themselves trapped, picked apart by enemies they couldn't see or predict. "Another fortress world has fallen," an aide reported. "The underground species we freed last month tunneled under their main defenses. The Dominion never even saw them coming." In the space around a dying star, the largest battle yet was taking place. But it wasn't like any battle the galaxy had seen before. Small ships darted between larger ones, rebels used mining tools as weapons, and converted cargo vessels carried fighters right past enemy lines. They said humans were primitive, a rebel leader told his troops. But look what the primitives taught us: how to think freely, fight smartly, and never give up. The Dominion's empire had been built on fear and superior technology. But humans had shown the galaxy something stronger: hope and determination. Every species now knew that they could fight back and win. Porter stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display fill with more and more green dots of Allied forces. The Dominion's red markers were being pushed back everywhere. Their perfect empire was falling apart, destroyed not by a superior force, but by the very primitives they had looked down on. "Send word to all forces," Porter ordered. "The path to the Dominion's home system is open. It's time for the final battle." The message went out across the galaxy, translated into every language. Remember the 100. Remember why we fight. The Dominion thought they could break our spirit. Instead, they created an army they cannot defeat. Tomorrow, we end this. The uprising had succeeded beyond anyone's imagination. The Dominion hadn't just lost their empire, they had lost their claim to superiority. And now, they would face justice. The Dominion homeworld hung like a dark jewel in space, surrounded by its last defensive fleet. After 18 months of war, everything had led to this moment. The combined rebel fleet, led by human ships, emerged from jump points all around the system. General Porter stood on the bridge of the Justice, looking at the planet that had ordered the execution of the 100. Behind him, on every ship in the fleet, crews prepared for the final battle. They weren't just humans anymore. Every freed species had sent their best warriors for this fight. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. The Hundred's Legacy Squadron is in position. The Legacy Squadron, led by Jack Thompson, had earned a fearsome reputation. They were the last reminder of what this war was really about: justice for those who had been executed to teach humanity a lesson. "Send the message," Porter ordered. A simple transmission went out to the Dominion fleet: surrender and face trial, or face the same mercy you showed the Hundred. On the Dominion homeworld, panic spread through the High Command. Their mighty empire had crumbled in just 18 months. Their superior technology meant nothing against the combined creativity of dozens of species fighting together, using human tactics. "We should negotiate," one commander suggested, his armor almost white with fear. "Too late," another replied. "Look at their formation." The rebel fleet wasn't arranged in traditional battle lines. Instead, they moved like a swarm of insects, using patterns that humans had learned from studying nature on Earth. Large ships protected smaller ones, while fast attack craft darted between them, ready to strike. The battle began without warning. The Dominion expected a direct assault. Instead, they got chaos. Mining ships turned asteroids into weapons. Cargo vessels released clouds of microsatellites that jammed targeting systems. Former slave species used their natural abilities in ways the Dominion never imagined possible. And leading it all were the black ships of humanity, showing everyone how to fight like their survival depended on it. "The inner defense line is breaking," someone reported. "They can't predict where we'll strike." The Hundred's Legacy Squadron broke through first. They flew straight for the capital city, their ships painted with the names of the executed prisoners. The Dominion's last defenders fell back in terror as they realized who they were facing. In the High Command Center, the High Commander watched his empire's final moments. "How?" he asked nobody in particular. "How did they do this to us?" The answer came from his own intelligence chief. "We killed their prisoners to show our strength. Instead, we showed them exactly why they needed to destroy us." The battle for the capital lasted less than an hour. The Dominion's leaders, so proud of their superiority, were captured by the very species they had enslaved. Many surrendered when they saw human soldiers walking alongside their former slaves. In the Grand Hall where the Dominion had once broadcast executions, Porter met with leaders from every freed species. They had one question: what should happen to their former masters? "We're not like them," Porter said simply. "They will face fair trials. The galaxy will see real justice, not revenge." Jack Thompson, the last family member of the Hundred, stood guard as the High Commander was led to his cell. "My brother was one of the Hundred," he told the fallen leader. "He died singing. We're stronger than you thought, aren't we?" The war ended with a ceremony. On a new space station built in neutral territory, representatives from every species gathered. They created new laws about prisoner treatment, ensuring nothing like the Hundred's execution would ever happen again. In the station's main hall, they built a memorial. It listed the names of the Hundred, and below them, a simple message: their sacrifice showed the galaxy that true strength lies not in superior weapons or technology, but in the unbreakable spirit of those who fight for freedom. The Dominion's fatal mistake hadn't just led to their defeat. It had united the galaxy in ways no one thought possible. They had tried to break humanity's spirit, but instead, they had awakened something far more powerful: hope for all species to be free.